to the Strong Enough podcast, where we talk about the challenges and celebrate the triumphs of people just like you. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is going to share how being overweight and other serious medical conditions nearly cost him his life. However, he has been able to make a change and lose over 175 pounds in less than a year. And he's healthier than ever. Please help me welcome Daniel Reyes. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I really appreciate your being here. And I know that we have only known each other a few moments, but I already get such a good vibe from you. So I'm excited for our chat today.
Well, that's probably because we both love dogs. So that's...
You can't go wrong there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're going to have to veer off real quick then and tell me, do you have dogs now?
I used to. My little pup passed away a few months ago, but
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mine did as well. So the one
Yeah.
in the back here, so I can relate. Thank you. Do you have plans for more puppers in the future?
In the future, not just yet. I'm going to take a little bit break. I need some time, but yes, I will again. I had a corgi, so
they are so adorable.
Indeed.
Aww.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, do you think you will get another corgi, or will you go for a different breed?
No, I think I've been converted to the corgi life. So yeah,
I get it. Right on. I have been converted to the Pekingese life, but
there you go.
But corgis, I don't know. I might those fat little butts.
Yes,
I might have to jump in. Well, now that we've gotten dogs out of the way, I would love it if you would tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Daniel. I live in North Idaho. I'm 41. I have struggled with my weight my entire life, and fairly recently I have lost over 175 pounds in less than a year, and did it without surgery. There's a lot more to it than just the weight loss, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm somebody who struggled with my weight my whole life, and I just want to help people and let them know that there is hope. Like, if you've tried everything like I have, there are methods that work, and that's what I want to help people with.
I love it. And I want to say, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
175 pounds in less than a year and without surgery is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I would love for you. I mean, we're obviously going to talk about your success and how you have done this, but I would love to back up a little bit and talk about where you were before you lost the weight.
Yeah. So it all started about 4.5 years ago. I walked into the emergency room. My lips were blue. I couldn't really breathe. I had a hard time just walking a few steps, and it was really, really bad. And I'd never been that bad before. I'd always been able to live just fine. It ends up, I went in at 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 5:30 in the evening, I was having emergency surgery. They had found blood clots in my lungs and in my right leg. And it was really, really bad. I was later told that one blood clot in your lung is a 20% chance of survival, and I had multiple. So not good. On top of that, I had been born with a heart condition. So like, it was just stacks and stacks and stacks against me. They ended up putting a tube in my neck, like right around here, that we reached into my lungs and kind of like sparred off into the lungs. And it was like shooting out meds into the lungs to kind of to remove those clots. Later, the next day, they told me they were going to remove the tube. And, I thought they were going to knock me out to do that. And they just walked over. Yeah. That was wild. Wow. And it didn't hurt, but I felt it the whole way. Yeah. The closest thing I can liken it to is like checking the oil in your car. Yeah, that's the reaction I get when I see that. Everyone has that same, like, they get that the minute you say that. Yeah. So, it was wild. After that, I spent a day in the ICU, and then after that, they put me in what's called an end of life room. At some hospitals, it's called a hospice room, because they really thought that was it. with everything. But 3 weeks there, there was a lot. There was a round of internal bleeding. There was a time where my kidneys were shutting down. It was just all sorts of different things, but somehow, thank God, I pulled through, and I got out of the hospital a month later. But I was told you need to lose weight, and so I was out for a month, or I was in a month, out a month, and then I had to go back in another month because I was still having issues. And again, they told me you need to lose weight, but they don't tell you how. They just say go do it. And I was told you've got about 5 years, and if you don't do it, we can't guarantee anything past 5 years. Like that's it. So that's scary. That's really, really scary. So I did everything, and like before I had tried stuff, right? And now, like, even more so, I'm trying things because I got the clock on my head, and I don't want to go. And so you name it, I tried it, and everything would work for a little bit, maybe 2 to 3 months, and then it would stagnate, and then I would get frustrated, and then something would happen to me medically where, like, I had bouts of can never pronounce it right, plantar fasciitis, where you can't walk.
Yes, the really, really painful stuff on the bottom of your foot.
Yes, that thing is a nightmare. And I
It's
would get flare-ups of that.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I had this weird thing where, like, sometimes my hand wouldn't work at all. Like, it would just be frozen and, like, throbbing and just hurting. I don't know what that was. And like, I would go through bouts of that. And so, like, then my diet wouldn't work, and so I would eat, and, like, it was just back and forth constantly. So I was constantly yo-yoing back and forth, back and forth. And so finally, like 3 years in, I thought, well, I have to do something. So I looked into weight loss surgery, and that was pretty scary. So just so you know, my background is in TV. I spent 10 years in TV news. So I do a lot of research before I do make a big decision, right? So I looked into just the statistics of weight loss surgery, and I have family members who have had it. And of the family members that have had it, it all worked for maybe about a year and a half, and then they all gained the weight back. Statistically, on a 10-year timeline, it's only about a 10% success rate. The clinics nearby my house that I went to, one had a 30% success rate after about a year and a half, and the other one had a 35% success rate. So not good odds. On top of that, most insurances do not cover it, so you have to pay for it all out of pocket. And in the United States, weight loss surgery is anywhere between 15 grand to, I think it's as high as 65,000, all out of pocket. So you can go to other countries and try to get it cheaper, and people do it. Like,
but then you're going to another country and having surgery, which has its own set of scary issues.
Well, one of the what they call best weight loss surgery clinics is actually in Tijuana, Mexico. And I think last time I checked there, it was like 5 grand. And a lot of people go from the United States over there to get it, but still, it's expensive. Either way, it's expensive. And the stats show it doesn't work. More often than not, it doesn't work. So it was scary. It was really scary. And then with all of my stuff going on too, the risk was very, very high for me, and but still the risk of not doing it was worse. So I looked into it. And one of the things so I went with the clinic that offered the 35% success rate, because I want that 5 extra percent.
You got to go for the 5 extra percent.
You need that 5 extra, right? Yeah. I mean, I want the odds in my favor as much as I can.
Definitely.
And so part of what made them get that 5 extra percent is they had a whole program with it. It wasn't just pay for it, schedule it, and go. So they had a program where, like, you had to show them you could lose weight. Like, you had to lose, I think it was like 10% body fat or some 10% of your weight, something like that. And so they gave me a metric to hit. And they said, okay, what you're going to do is we're going to put you on a liquid diet. You're only going to drink liquids for a month. They gave me some protein shakes to drink, like meal replacement, and they said do that, and they said you should be able to hit your goal in a month, no problem. Okay, great. And that was scary to think about. Like, I'm not going to eat for a month. I'm just going to drink stuff. But you're motivated at that point, so I'm going to do it. And I was surprised how easy it was. Very surprised how easy it was. And I ended up only losing half the weight I was supposed to. And the dietitian was very upset with me and said clearly I had cheated on my diet. And I didn't. Flat out, I didn't. I know I didn't. It just didn't work. I did exactly to the letter what they told me. I chronicled everything. I measured I did it. And so I was pretty devastated. And she was like, well, we'll just go another month and then we'll see what happens. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, already this is showing me it's not going to work. And I'm going to go and pay like tens of thousands of dollars that I really don't have. And I'm just scraping together. So like, that's nuts. Right. And I had been following, like, this isn't scientific at all, but I had been following like Instagram and TikTok accounts for weight loss.
Wait, are you saying TikTok is not scientific?
I know, right?
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah, Dr. TikTok, who knew?
Yeah, let's take a moment to let that sink in.
Right.
Okay,
yeah.
Continue.
Yes, exactly. So I was following like weight loss accounts that had surgery. And, the algorithm is the algorithm. And it started showing me people who did intermittent fasting. And one thing I noticed was the weight loss surgery accounts were pretty active for about a year and a half. And then not so much. Whereas the intermittent fastings, they were pretty active consistently. I mean, there are the outliers who aren't, right? That happens. But they're overall far more sticking to it. And they seemed happier and they were losing weight. The other thing I noticed was the weight loss surgery. Yes, they lost, the weight was faster to drop in the beginning. Like the first 2 or 3 months. Yes, it was much faster than fasting, but fasting was more consistent. And so like that interests me. And, fasting's free, right? You don't pay for it. And so that all kind of interests me. And I thought, well, I just went a month without eating. I think I can go like 16 hours without eating. Like that, I can handle that. And so I tried it. I figured, well, I've got a little bit of time here. I've got 2 years left on my clock. Let's see. Well, my first month of doing just 16.8, I lost more weight than the liquid diet. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to stick to this. And I've never looked back. And I've since lost 175 pounds in about 11 months, roughly. And it's been great. And it hasn't been difficult. And I think what we had talked about earlier about changing what weight loss surgery doesn't address the fundamental issues with food. I really believe fasting does. And it's such a benefit.
I am actually really excited to hear about this.
Yeah.
I want to back up for a second though,
Sure.
Because I thought about, when you said you went to the hospital and you had to have surgery and you come out of surgery and it's kind of a miracle that you were alive through that. How hard is it to fight though, when you get put in the end of life room?
So the good thing is they never told me it was an end of life room until they moved me to a regular room. All they told me was, we got you a really nice room, because the room was like 3 times the size of a traditional, room. It was by myself. I didn't have to share it with anybody. There was tons of furniture for visitors because they think you're going to die. Right. And then I later found out it's so big because they expect to have a lot of equipment in there to keep you alive as long as they can. That's what I found out. They also at the end of life room was like the biggest TV you could imagine.
All
like
it was
channels. Yeah. They literally had this like it was like this weird Netflix where like you could watch movies that were in the theater right then and there, and you could just watch them in your hospital room. Yeah,
So what I'm hearing, and for the listeners and viewers out there,
yeah.
you're in the hospital and you end up in this really nice room with the
Hmm.
magic Netflix. It's actually not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. I do remember very early on the guy across the hall from me, he would be moaning and wailing a lot. And I asked him one time, what's going on over there? And they're just like, oh, he has cancer. And I remember thinking, I'm here for like blood clots in my heart. That's weird. But
Mhm.
like I was so out of it with drugs, like I was like, whatever. Like,
I'm gonna watch another movie.
yeah, I'm gonna watch another movie now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good then, because I was thinking like, gosh, that's got to be really tough when it kind of feels like even the doctors have given up on you and put you in this it's time to go room.
Yeah.
Like, how do you crawl out of that? So
Yeah.
it's good to know that you don't know that at the
You don't know
time.
that, and that's probably for the best. Yeah.
What what was it like for you when you got out of the hospital and then learned where you were, but then you had to go back into the hospital?
Oh man, I so did not want to go back in. Because I had spent a month in there already, right? And to go back in to me felt like admitting defeat. And it felt like, oh, this really is going to be it. Like that was it. And and I remember being in there and just hating it because we actually went they put me in a different hospital the second time. Um because there's a better cardiac unit at that other hospital, so they were like, that's where you should go, so that's where I went. And at least in that one I was never in an end of life room. I was just in a regular room. But just I can't express how much it was demoralizing to have to return. And yeah, it
How did you keep going? How did you keep your spirits as positive as possible when you felt that way?
I you can't think of it long term at that point. You literally take it day to day, right? And that's all I could do. Like, could I make it another day? Because at that point, I would go to bed at night not knowing if I was going to wake up, and I lived like that for years during all this, right? Like, who's going to find me? How are they going to find me? You know, um, when I was in that second hospital, like both times in the hospital, I really couldn't walk.
Mhm.
So, like, I had to be attended to, like I was, infirmed, and it was terrible, and at that point, I'm in my mid 30s, and like, you shouldn't live like that.
Mhm.
It's hard, just emotionally, you know.
Will you talk a little bit about what got you to that point as far as your weight issues? Was it more of a genetic situation, or I know you mentioned you had some health issues. So what do you
Yeah.
think caused that to begin with?
So, being overweight and a cardiac patient, that's fairly common. That's a high percentage of cardiac patients are overweight. It's goes with the territory. Um, but as far as the blood clots, they did do genetic testing, but they didn't find anything, which is really weird.
Mhm.
Because I do have one uncle who's had a blood clot before too. So like I would think there would be something there, but there wasn't. So that's interesting. They really don't know where the clots came from. They just happen. And it's my understanding that clots can just happen sometimes. Like there's people who get them on like long air flights,
Mhm.
right? So it just happens. Um, yeah.
When you look at it now, and even though you had to spend those 2 months in the hospital and go through everything, are you grateful for that time now because it put you on this path to a much healthier you?
I am, but I also think it kind of sucks. I needed that kick in the ass, you know, that I had to get that low before I would start really finding what would work for me. But I also liken it to like when you lose your keys, right? Once you find them, you stop looking.
Hmm.
So like I had to find what worked. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So now I want to talk a little bit about, first off, the liquid diet.
Yeah.
How was that for a month?
Yeah. One thing I learned is it was surprisingly easy. Like surprisingly easy. Um, I don't know what that is. I think it's more mental than anything because it does sound daunting.
Hmm.
And when I was told that originally, yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull this off. But yeah, no, it was fine. Um, there's some, maybe it's the type of shakes make you feel fuller.
Hmm.
I don't know. But yeah, it was surprisingly easy.
Do you think it's like that for everybody? And I ask that because, and I know TV is also not real, much like TikTok, but I
Indeed.
have watched a lot of My 600-Pound Life.
Hmm.
And so you kind of, a lot of what you just talked about, that progression is what you see on that show. But, and I'm sure they put the most interesting people on there, but they always seem to have a problem with this liquid diet or with kind of the diet in general initially. Do you think that's legitimate? Do you think it's more hyped up for TV purposes? Or were you just in that mindset where you were like, I'm ready to do this and I'm going to do what it takes?
So I know for myself and for other, like I've helped now, people are coming to me asking for advice. More than anything, it's mental. And if you don't have the mindset that you're gonna do this, it's a lot harder to do. You will be amazed how quickly you get over hunger and how your body adapts to not eating. So it's all mental.
That's that's interesting. And I think, I mean, I guess that's how I look at it. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm the outsider looking in, so I want you to correct me
Yeah, yeah, for
if
sure.
I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of people really aren't ready to lose the weight and they want to, like you said, kind of take the easy way out. Because when I watch them lose like that 10% and when they make it, and I'm like, but you made it, just keep doing that. Like, why put
Mhm.
yourself through surgery now? Because you see that you can do it.
Right. So it really depends on the person. And the way that they show it on the show is the typical diet of calorie restriction
Hmm.
and something like that. I have noticed more and more they're saying low carb or no carb
Hmm.
on that show because that works and it really works well. I mean, that's what I do when I do eat with fasting is low carb. It really works. Um, the other thing too is, we were talking about the liquid diet and fasting and all that. The longest fast on record is over a year. This guy in like the 60s did it for here, I pulled it up while we were talking. He went 382 days, Angus Barbieri, and it was medically documented. This happened in 1965. He lost a ton of weight, clearly, not eating for a year. But he was medically supervised the entire time. Everyone was amazed how well he did, and dude lost like over 200 pounds.
Now, when we say he did not eat for over a year,
Uh-huh.
what did he consume?
He did black coffee,
Okay.
he did tea without sugar and water.
And that's it.
That's it. He would take like a multivitamin,
Hmm.
is what I've read, and every now and then he would take some sort of like electrolyte powder. But that,
Wow.
nothing you or I would consider food.
I agree. Yes. I mean, unless
Yeah.
you take the electrolyte powder and mix it with water
Cake.
and turn it into a popsicle that, yes, then you dip into the cake.
Right.
So, okay. I want to talk about your fasting
Yeah.
and kind of talk a little bit about what you do, what is your process, and
Yeah.
how it works for you.
Yeah. So I started out with traditional, like I looked into it. Surprisingly, there's a lot of different ways to not
Hmm.
eat, all sorts of different fasting methods. But I did the typical 16/8 is where I started,
Hmm.
and got good results from that. But I liken fasting to running. Right, once you start building your endurance, you can just go further and further and further. So from 16:8, I eventually got to a 4-hour eating window, then down to a 1 meal a day.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would go down to like, I wouldn't eat for days at a time. And then I would do like a little bit of like an eating window, maybe like a 10 or 12 hour, and then go again for a few more days. And then I would just kind of swap it around. Um, One of the things that as I continued to go and just keep losing weight, um, for me, as I'm doing the research, I'm noticing that the big thing with fasting is to mimic ancient eating patterns, right? And it struck me as odd that we developed these hard windows for eating, right? But a caveman didn't have a hard window. Caveman just went and hunted his food and ate. It was spontaneous. It wasn't scheduled. So from there, I wanted to develop. I wanted to find a tool to kind of like change it up for myself. And I was surprised nothing had been developed. So I developed fasting dice, and I patented it. I created them, and they're just, you roll these dice and they give you different fasting windows, and you can change it up as often as you want. And my whole thing is to, one, it adds body confusion, so your body doesn't adapt to your windows, so it helps prevent stagnation. Two, like, it makes it fun. There's even like a cheat on there, so you never know. Surprisingly, you might get a cheat, so it makes it, it's a game. And then the other big thing that I've noticed for myself is sometimes I'll plan out like a week or two in advance, and so then I can schedule like social events, because now I know when my windows are in advance, and so like maybe I can do a lunch that day, maybe not, and so that helps.
Do you use the dice?
Oh
now?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have my own, like I developed some for people, and they go up to a day, 24 hours. So these are them right there.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. But I have my own that'll go up to 5 days, and that's what I use for myself, because I've gotten to that point. So
when you roll,
yeah,
and let's say you roll that 5 days, is your initial thought like, damn it? Or are you just like, cool, 5 days?
the first time I rolled 5, yeah, there was a damn it. I mean, I have gone as long as a week, right? But so I knew what to expect when I got a 5-day,
right?
But nobody wants to go 5 days without eating. That sucks. but it's more mental than anything. Like because even those 5 days that I'm not eating, I'm still working out. I'm still going to work. I'm like, unless I say something, nobody can tell.
That's what I would love to chat about for a minute, because I have done some, like, not even fasts really, but like a 3-day reset kind of thing. And one of the things they tell you is like, oh, don't work out because you're going to be so tired. You're taxing your body. But I love that it sounds like your life is the same no matter what. So I know that you're not a doctor, but can you talk about kind of how that works for you health-wise, and why you aren't worried about taxing your body when you're fasting?
So I'll put it to you like this. We talked about how bad I was medically, right? So because of all that, I still have to regularly see my cardiologist and my hematologist, right? My cardiologist, I'm now down to seeing only once a year because I significantly improved myself. My hematologist, I see every 6 months. It used to be every 3 months. So I've improved myself. Both of them have seen a significant difference, not just in my appearance and my abilities, but in my blood work since doing the fasting. So it's not just me like woo-wooing, thinking like, no, it is working. On top of that, I think it was 2016, might be 2017, but the doctor who won the Nobel Prize for medicine proved the benefits of what's called autophagy. Autophagy, the main way to reach that is through fasting, going longer than 24 hours. And he proved that it helps combat dementia, Parkinson's, arthritis, some cancers, like just all these things, helped with heart disease, like all these just different things that it did. It helps stimulate stem cell growth, and the stem cells, just the ones that your body produces, just go to where they're needed. So like my in technically I'm in heart failure, right? Because of everything. So what they call your EF, which is one of the ways they measure the effectiveness of your heart. Like the average person is like in the 60s. Nobody's at 100%, right? An Olympian is at like 80 to 85. When I was at my worst, I was down in the low 40s. My last checkup, I was 77.
Wow.
Yeah. And remember, for years I was trying things and I was on my meds. It wasn't until the fasting that I got that much higher. And so it's not just the meds, right? My blood work has improved significantly. I've been told the entire time that I was going to be on blood thinners my whole life. This last visit I had to my hematologist, which was a month ago, 2 months ago, it was the first time he's like, if you get down to a healthy weight, we can talk about, getting you off these meds. First time he's ever mentioned that. So
how much further do you have to hit your goal weight?
So I'm 5'4", right? So according to the charts, I need to be between 130 and 150 pounds for my height. That seems really, really small to me.
It seems very small.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'll get that low. But I'm going to try to shoot for somewhere in that neighborhood. So I still got a while to go. I still probably got another 100 pounds to go. But we'll see. The other thing I've noticed too is when I go work out, especially when I'm fasting, once you get to, I think it's like 36 hours of fasting, your body releases HGH. And it does that for a few reasons. One, the idea is it's trying to preserve the muscle that you have so that, evolutionarily speaking, right, you need to go hunt that animal.
Right.
So you need your muscles to work while you go hunt the animal. So your body releases the HGH so that your body doesn't eat itself. Well, when you do finally break your fast and you eat, your body is full of all this HGH that it's just unloaded to prevent itself. So you actually grow muscle much faster, is what the studies show. So my weight might hit a different marker because the muscle mass is increasing.
Right. And that's, I've always not really liked the whole BMI calculation because it does not account for muscle mass and different body types and things like that. So
yeah.
What do you eat when you're not fasting? Because I can see me, being like, I cannot eat for 3 days and then hogging down an entire pizza. And I'm sure that that's not really what we're supposed to be doing. So will you talk about what you eat when you do?
So I do allow myself once a month to have that go crazy cheat day, right? Because you got to sometimes. But I figured once a month, that's pretty good, especially when I'm not eating for days at a time. That said, traditional, normal, it's time to eat days, I keep it as keto as possible because I have found for myself that's what works the best. I have tried like vegetarian or vegan or like high meats or whatever. None of those really work for my body. When I go vegan, I'm too tempted to go for like bowls of rice. Rice is like my trigger. So I gotta keep it back. Fortunately, I've gotten much better at making like cauliflower rice and spicing it up and making it good. Little trick for everybody: chicken broth is your best friend with cauliflower rice. It will really make it feel more like rice. So,
yum.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Do you find when you talked about what works for you with the diet, is that different for a lot of people? Do you think people have to kind of try out different things to see what works for them?
For what I've seen, what I eat would work for just about anybody. But that said, what works for a person is what they can stick to. Right. So the fasting in and of itself isn't magic, right? Like, who fasts? That's kind of crazy. Sumo wrestlers.
Really?
Yes. But what they do, they don't eat in the morning. They typically have a workout. Then around like 10 or 11 is when they have their breakfast, lunch, brunch, and it's a big meal, and they immediately go to sleep. They take a nap. then they have another workout, and then they have a big dinner, and then they go to sleep for the night. So they're working out twice a day, but what's making them big is sleeping immediately after. So it's a big reason why people should not eat a couple hours before bed, right? So the fasting in and of itself isn't magic. You do have to watch kind of what you eat, but it will help get you there.
Do you drink at all?
I don't.
Okay.
I just never have.
I'm trying to help people out here to see like
Yeah.
how much they can do with this. But like you said, it's kind of your own, it's what you can handle.
It's what you can handle, right? So, and the other thing I tell people, like I've had a few people, like I was saying, come to me and ask me for advice. You know, they're like, oh, I know I need to cut this out and cut that out and do that. I'm like, look, don't do that. Start with one thing, cut that out, build on that, then cut the next thing, then the next thing. Then that's how you make the lifestyle change. Because if you go and do it all, you're gonna hate it. You're not gonna stick to it, and then you're gonna give up, and you're gonna be like, oh, fasting didn't work for me. He didn't know what he was talking about. Well, you didn't do what I said.
How does it feel for you to be the person now that other people come to help them lose weight and get healthier?
That's wild. It's so wild to me. But I like it. You know, I've done a lot of research. I know what I'm talking about. What's really crazy is my cardiologist had me talk to other cardiologists because they wanted to know, like, you're doing so good. And typically people in your position do not do this good. What are you doing? Because we need to help other patients. And so they had me speak to a whole group of cardiologists like 3 months ago. Yeah.
How cool was that?
That was, it was so like honoring to do that. Yeah.
What has all of this done for your self-esteem and your self-worth to be this entirely different person who is now going in front of the cardiologists
Right.
and telling them how they can help their patients?
You know, I remember being the guy in the hospital, and I remember what it was like not being able to take care of myself. And I really don't want anyone to have to be there, you know? So if I can help somebody not be that person, great. You know, that's really what I think about.
If you were going to give somebody kind of, here's how you should start if you're going to try fasting,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
You know, I tell them the same thing I tell anyone else, right? If you've never done it before, if you eat like traditionally, like the way anyone eats, start 12-12. 12-hour fasting, 12-hour not eating, you know, or eating. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean you eat for 12 hours straight like a buffet, right? That means, it means 3 meals, 3 snacks. That's it. And in those 12 hours, you have that opportunity. Start with that. Do that for a week if you need to. Get used to it. Because the whole point is this needs to be as easy as possible so that you stick to it, right? So do that. And once you're comfortable with it, shave off an hour or two. And every time you shave off an hour or two, cut off one either meal or snack in your progression, right? So then that way you're minimizing it so that you get down to maybe a 16-8, or if you do get the dice, then you can, you know, alternate with them and find that.
I'm excited to try this. It sounds really amazing.
There's a lot of great benefits. It's insane. You know, my hematologist 2 times in a row now has come into the room after doing my blood work, and he just goes, it's perfect. And I'm like, well, you mean for me with my issues? He's like, no, it's perfect. And it's all the fasting. Like,
can you ever see yourself going back and not saying going back to gaining weight, but going back to a more traditional eating pattern, I guess?
no. I kind of had to this last week because I got a cold really bad. I'm like on the tail end of this cold. And I have noticed that like when I tried to fast with the cold, I started feeling really weak. And I knew that wasn't the fasting, it was the cold. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm just gonna deal with this stupid cold. Like I literally cannot wait to go back to fasting. It's nuts, right? So I'm hoping this is my last eating day so that I can fast for a few days. And yeah. But that's where my mentality is at. So no, I don't
Mhm.
see myself going back. Like I wanted to go back to not eating.
And did you ever think you would say that before?
No, 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 not at all. My mom used to tell stories about being a little kid, and they would make the announcements in the store were like, hey, we're gonna close up in 5 minutes, and I would
Mhm.
freak out and be like, they're gonna lock us in, and what are we gonna eat? I was that kid. Yeah.
What is your favorite thing to eat on your cheat day?
Favorite thing to eat on a cheat day. Ooh. It's changed from what I used to love before. And lately, it's onion rings.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's solid. That's solid. I like onion rings.
I used to be a big pizza guy, but the last few months, man,
Mhm.
onion rings have been they've been the spot.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you think that fasting is going to kind of pick up more? Because I do see more about it and see more people doing it. So do you feel like more people are really seeing the benefits from it and understanding that it is a healthy way to live?
I know the people that have tried it that I know. Every single one of them have lost weight and improved their health almost instantly from fasting. Friend of mine, she's diabetic, type 2 diabetes. She saw the progress I was making. Within a month of fasting, she significantly reduced her needs for medications. Still have some, but a lot less than when she used to. My uncle, who just started fasting maybe 3 weeks ago, um, had significant bouts of acid reflux.
Mhm.
I got him on a fasting program. Within a week and a half, that went away entirely,
Wow.
and he's lost 10 pounds. And he started at 174 and is down to 165 or 164 in like a week and a half from the fasting. So he didn't need to lose a lot of weight, but still, another lady in my office that I work in, and I just started working at this place maybe a month ago. Um, she started fasting because of the benefits I was having. I think like she's only like a week and a half in and has lost like 8 pounds, you know? So yeah, I think the more and more people see these benefits, they're just going to want it. The other thing is it's free, you know?
Right. Right. In fact, you're probably saving money if you're
Yeah.
eating so much less.
Like, I mean, I made the dice, right? But,
Mhm.
but the whole idea is just to help you stick to it.
Mhm.
It's not like it's a subscription service that you need to stick to. Like, it's a one-time thing that helps you keep up with it.
What happens so let's say you get to your goal weight, whatever
Yeah.
that may be.
Yeah.
How do you then adapt what you're doing so that you don't continue to lose weight, but you stay in that healthy range?
So I think that's going to be trial and error, figuring out what my new windows would be. But I'm excited for that, right? That's a new
Mhm.
challenge to get to.
You probably have to get rid of the 5-day dice, I would
Probably,
guess.
probably. Yeah. But then I got the other ones, right? That are only like a day.
There
So
you
yeah.
go. Have you ever talked to anyone, or I don't want to say worked with, because I know it's not an official program yet, but have you ever talked to somebody who has previously dealt with an eating disorder that wants to try fasting?
I've talked to people who were binge eaters,
Mhm.
right? For myself, I found out through the fasting that I was a binge eater, an emotional binge eater.
Mhm.
And so I've talked to people about that. But like the other way, and like an anorexic, I have
Mhm.
not. No.
When you said you were an emotional binge eater,
Mhm.
did you do anything else in your life to fix or work on the emotional aspect of that other than fasting?
My whole progression from the hospital to where I'm at now, there was a lot of emotional work that needed to be done, right? Just period. Because there was a lot of trauma in there, right? In that
Mhm.
situation. So there was a lot of work that I needed to do just internally. But there's it's not a study, but there was a recent, let me see if I can find it real quick. This medical school took a look at, like, I think it was 14 different fasting research or studies.
Mhm.
And what they found was that while definitively there's no proof in this, they did see that in those 14 studies, people who did fasting saw improvements in reducing depression and reducing anxiety. And so they didn't have an exact reason as to why to attribute that.
Mhm.
Was it because of the weight loss and now they felt more self-confident? Or was it something fasting does to help alter some of your mood and hormones?
Mhm.
So maybe it could be that. There's no definitive study yet, but there was that benefit. And I know for myself, I have seen that.
Mhm.
So I think that also helped too.
That's reason enough to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to ask you if you were going to throw out a piece of wellness advice, what would it be?
Don't be so hard on yourself. I think we're our own worst critics. And, you know, one of the big things that I talk about is, like, if you failed in a diet, if you failed in fasting, don't, like, if you failed, that sucks, but look for what caused the failure so that you can learn from it, right? Were you in an area that triggered you to eat? Okay, well, avoid that. Something like that.
Mhm. I love it. We are going to take a quick turn here before I let you go. We are going to talk about tattoos just for a quick minute. Now, it's been chilly here, so I have been unable to wear short sleeves lately, so you cannot see my tattoos, but I have some. I have a bunch. I know that you do not have tattoos,
I do not know.
but I'm going to put you on the hot seat here for a
Okay.
second. So I don't know why you don't have tattoos,
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter. But let's say we're going to clear off any reason. So it's free, it's not going to hurt, and you can snap your fingers and make them appear and disappear whenever you want.
Okay.
So with all these parameters,
Hmm.
what tattoo would you get and why?
So I do want to get one.
Yay.
Um, I can't right now because I'm on the blood thinners, and I've been
Mm-hmm.
told can't get a tattoo when you're on blood thinners. So it's partly my motivation to get off the blood thinners. But I would like to get here. I've got it here. It's a lotus.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Um, yeah. So growing up, my mom used to call me Danielson from the Karate Kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he wore the lotus bandana. My mom passed away about 12 years ago. So one, it reminds me of her, but also from what I've read in those cultures, the lotus represents rebirth. And so for everything that I've gone through, I feel reborn. So for me, the lotus tattoo probably on my arm
Okay.
kind of matches both things at the same time. So
Yeah. I love it.
yeah,
I don't know any tattoo artists in Idaho,
I
but
do.
okay, perfect.
Yeah, I've got a
Perfect.
really good friend. I'm his great white whale that he's never put ink on, and he's just dying for me to come in the chair.
It's
So
going to happen.
yeah,
Going to
yeah,
happen. I'm
yeah.
excited. Well, Daniel, where can people find you? So, again, I know we talked about that you kind of unofficially help people. That's probably at some point going to transition into something more. You also
Probably, yeah.
have the dice.
Hmm.
So, if people want to talk to you about fasting, if they want to talk to you about tattoos, and since you know a good artist in Idaho,
Yeah.
who that might be, where can people find you?
So fastingdice.com is my website. I've got all my social media there. There's a contact page. People can email me. I also have for free a guide that kind of deals with the emotional aspects of weight loss, like just different tips and tricks that have helped me to lose 175 pounds in less than a year. So, and that's completely free. Just put in your email address and you'll get the guide. So yeah, everything's there.
Awesome. Do you have a potential time frame on when you might open up additional resources for people?
Ooh, not yet. I'm still kind of exploring some options, but I definitely do want to start helping people more individually.
So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, if you go to the website and you get the free guide, that'll put you on the list as well, and that'll let you know when I start doing those things.
Right on. Well, Daniel, you have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking the
Yeah.
time today to share your story and share something that so many people can benefit from and probably did not even know it. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
I really hope you guys enjoyed my conversation with Daniel as much as I did. I truly appreciate his sharing all the struggles that he went through and what finally made the difference for him. I also appreciate his sharing some of the science behind fasting and why it can work when diets don't. So remember, until next week, you are strong enough and you are worth it. Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Strong Enough Pod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.